BlackBerry, and also held positions at Aravana and Nortel Networks. And today, Glenn will be providing his perspectives on how consumer lifestyles are changing rapidly, and how service providers can keep pace with this rapidly changing environment. So let's hear from Glenn. Glenn, where are you? Here you go.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Everybody hear me all right? So today I want to talk to you about the changes that are impacting our industry and some of the new business models and new technologies that are emerging to deal with those changes. So let's get on with it. Scott just talked about a mobile-first world. The world is mobile. And to put some of this into perspective, it took us 100 years to get to the first billion fixed access lines. It took us 7 years to get to the first 2 billion smartphones. This year we're going to ship about 1.1 billion smartphones globally, another 350 million tablets. That's 1.5 billion mobile computing devices. And to put that number into perspective, for the last several years we've shipped about 350 million PCs globally. So today we're shipping about 4 mobile computing devices that have the same computing power as a PC to every 1 PC device. And this is radically changing the industry. In the US, mobile penetration is now at 110%, so 110 mobile subscriptions for every 100 people. Smartphone penetration is at 68%, but 9 out of every 10 mobile devices sold in stores today is a smartphone. So smartphone penetration is on its way to 90%. And as that penetration grows, the revenue pool grows within the industry. So, and interestingly, there are also there have been 120 billion application downloads. So the world is also going to an application world. That's 50 application downloads per device. The world is going mobile. And our mobile devices, as you can see from the picture, have become a part of our life. So all of this mobile activity is driving tremendous growth in traffic on our networks. 2013, mobile traffic grew by about 65% in North America. We project that it's going to continue to grow by 50% per year for the next 5 years. That's a 10 times growth in mobile data traffic over the next 5 years. What's driving that growth? Well, increasing smartphone penetration from 68% to over 90%, and increasing consumption of data traffic per device. It's now at about 1.2 gigabytes per user per month per device. We see that more than doubling over the next 5 years. So tremendous growth in the data across the networks. But not all data is created equally. More and more of that data is streaming media. 60% of streaming music from applications like Pandora and Spotify is now on mobile devices. And that's been increasing year over year. Almost 50% of the traffic that's on our networks today is video traffic. And video is growing by 75% year over year. So the percentage of the traffic model made up from video is going to continue to increase. And the number of connected devices that are connected to the network is continuing to increase. Today, we're sitting at around 10 billion connected devices globally. We see that growing to 50 billion connected devices by 2020. Everything is connected. Smartphones, tablets, thermostats, connected cars, connected industry. Everything that benefits from a connection is connected. And all of this mobile activity and device connections is causing or creating a challenge and an opportunity for the operator base. The challenge is that while revenue is growing today, we're nearing the saturation point. As we drive smartphone penetration from 68% to over 90%, eventually it gets to the saturation point, and we as an industry will need to continue to evolve and find the next wave of revenue growth. And so there's a lot of activity on that. The opportunity The opportunity is that the demand for mobility seems to be insatiable. And so that next wave of growth and those new business opportunities in the future will be there. We need to be nimble and fast to go after them. Some operators are going to double down on the consumer and find more and more creative pricing bundles, faster speeds, more data to lure customers away from the big guys based on our ability to target our market with pricing solutions and pricing bundles. And some operators, and I'll put AT&T and Verizon in this category, are going to look out to the enterprise and start to focus on more and more growth in the enterprise. Verizon with its Terramar Cloud acquisition, AT&T with its Synaptic Cloud. And they've been successful so far. But there's going to be growth opportunities for everybody, both in the consumer space with more and more innovation and in the enterprise space. Being local matters. Understanding your customer deeply matters. Customer experience management matters. And so operators will have two priorities going forward for the next several years. Priority number one is dramatic improvements in network performance, in mobility coverage, and customer experience management. Because just holding on to the customers you have, reducing churn, is driving revenue growth because of the increasing data hitting the networks. The second priority is finding the new business models of the future. Where is that next wave of growth going to come from? So some ideas that other operators globally are looking at. This is not obviously an exhaustive list, but gives you some idea of what is going on within the industry. Mobile enterprise. Just as the world is going mobile, enterprises are going mobile. They're cutting the cord. They're moving from fixed computing and communications, desktop-based computing and communications, to smartphones and tablets, which leaves them with some significant problems that they need to solve. They need to solve in-building coverage, mobile device management, mobile application management, security, unified communications to the smartphone and to the tablet. And the service providers are very well positioned because we are the mobile providers to provide this mobile enterprise service for enterprises. Second opportunity is connected cars. 50% of the cars that come off the line in 2015 will be connected. Generally, being connected means LTE to the car, Wi-Fi inside the car. The car is becoming another mobile device. Connected home. The problem statement here is that as the number of connected devices proliferates inside the home, this becomes an n-squared problem for a homeowner to manage. I now have my PC, my laptop, my smartphone, my tablet, my thermostat, my wearables. Why does my smartphone not communicate with my set-top box? This is a big problem for individuals to manage inside of their home. They're not networking experts, but we are the networking experts. And so we can move in, and that will be a big space for operators to move in and provide a connected home management service to enable the in-home connections and the in-home networking for our customers. And finally, connected industry. This may not be too close to the small operators, but I'll mention it for illustrative purposes. GE is probably the best example here, is building something that they call the industrial internet. GE lives in a world of 9 nines, ultra high performance networks. And they want to use data analytics techniques to help drive their networks. I'll give you 2 examples. Jet engines. Jet engines generate a terabyte of traffic per flight. GE wants to be able to analyze that information in the cloud and download it back into the jet engine for real-time adjustments. Second example is wind turbines. Wind turbines have sensors in them that generate information every 40 milliseconds. This needs a mobility connection to the cloud, and then download, after real-time data analytics, download information back to the wind turbine for real-time reorientation of the wind turbine to improve the performance. So these are just some examples of where the industry is going and how the industry is leveraging mobility to drive future business models. So what are the 2 key technologies that are transforming and enabling these business models of the future? The 2 key technologies are mobility and cloud. Mobility and cloud. They're pervasive. Everything is going mobile, and everything is going cloud. All applications will be delivered from the cloud. They're pervasive technologies that are changing network architecture, starting with the big guys, but eventually coming down to the entire industry and the entire network. Underpinning it all, or connecting the two, is the network and network performance. And the network is becoming increasingly valuable as there's more and more traffic hitting these networks, and as more and more of this traffic is mission-critical traffic for enterprises. The network is becoming more important. So let's double down on one of the two technologies, mobility. Mobility to us is high broadband services wherever you are. It simply means, will my application work wherever I am? So mobility is about LTE, and LTE is about an end-to-end mobile broadband IP connection, all IP. So what's going on with the North American LTE? Well, the coverage builds are substantially being completed by the big guys. By the middle of 2014 to the end of 2014, the largest carriers will have completed their initial coverage builds. Verizon, for example, has 69% of its mobile data traffic already on LTE. 40% of their subscribers are on LTE, 69% of their traffic is on LTE. So they were out of the chute first. They're moving forward very quickly. But all operators will be completed their coverage build by the end of 2014 or shortly thereafter. Voice over LTE will be an anchor application, and it'll be a key differentiating application. And it'll be marketed under high-definition voice, but it will be ubiquitous. All operators will be launching VoLTE, and then we will be able to leverage VoLTE by mashing up different IP-based services in conjunction with that. So one of the things that Ericsson is focusing on as we move to the next phase beyond the initial coverage build is in-building coverage. In-building coverage is something that's becoming increasingly important as the world goes mobile, and we need to provide the same high bandwidth services in difficult to get at RF environments as we do in the easy to get at RF environments. So in-building coverage is the next wave for us. We are very focused on this area. We've launched a new product called the Radio Dot System that, compared to DAS, provides deployments at 1/2 the cost per bit in 1/3 the time at a significant increase in capacity. So we think it's a pretty clever solution. We think it's a very important solution to deal with the in-building coverage problem. And importantly, we are delivering this solution, and it can be tightly integrated with the macro environment around it. We're going to be in trials with our lead customers in Q3 and launching the product in early deployments in the Q4 timeframe. Another concept that we're focusing on is something we call app coverage. And app coverage simply means, can I use my application wherever I am? And it recognizes the fact that not all applications are created equally. Voice requires a 12.5 kilobit connection. Music requires a 160 kilobit connection. Streaming video requires a 720 kilobit connection. And so because the coverage model and the traffic model is different based on the application, we're more focused now on app coverage and providing the tools for us to monitor how we're performing against the changing traffic models. Take a network that has been provisioned for voice. This is a network that has been provisioned for voice so that we can reliably deliver voice coverage 95% of the time. Now let's overlay that with streaming music, and the coverage model falls to 70%. Now let's further overlay that with streaming video, and the coverage model falls to 20%. We think that to reliably deliver video, and video is becoming an increasingly important part of the traffic model, almost 50% today and growing, you need to deliver a minimum of a megabit per second to the cell edge. But if a megabit per second to the cell edge is what's required today, what's required tomorrow? The average web page is growing by 30% year over year. So to deliver the equivalent performance 5 years from now to today's 1 megabit per second, we would need 5 megabits per second. But obviously, the expectations of our customers are going to be continuing to grow much faster than that. So our networks and our network speed needs to grow with it. Network performance, network speed is going to become a critical differentiator. And it's a critical way that we can differentiate our services, especially in the rural areas. The second of the key technology enablers is cloud, and cloud is pervasive. To us, cloud means we're very, very focused on something called the service provider cloud. And the service provider cloud takes two technology concepts that have grown up in the data center to deliver low-cost, web-scale, high bandwidth and elastic bandwidth services. Those two technologies are virtualization and software-defined networking. Virtualization is network function virtualization. We can take network functions like IMS and the mobile packet core, virtualize them, and stand them up anywhere in the network we need. We can stand them up in the data center for scale. We can stand them up at the edge of the network for performance and low latency. Take a packet core application. It can be in the data center. It can be at the edge of the network. We now have the flexibility. Software-defined networking provides an abstraction layer between the network elements and the applications that ride on top so that we can program the network. And programming the network from this abstraction layer, from what we call the software-defined networking controller, dramatically simplifies network provisioning. What are some of the characteristics of this programmable network? A programmable network, we can set up network slices through the network that are optimized for specific applications. Take a network slice for voice that is optimized for low latency and low bandwidth. Another network slice might be optimized for video, for high capacity. And then we can expose the APIs from this network slice to the applications that are consuming the network. We can dynamically program the network without programming the individual network elements that are required to set up the connection. This dynamic network programmability is very transformative. We can reduce the provisioning time of a service like a VPN from months or weeks to minutes or seconds. It's very transformative. Dramatic cost reductions now because we're introducing automated provisioning. And finally, it allows the operator to go after new business models like transactions-based services on machine-to-machine networks and network-optimized over-the-top services. So these are very transformative technologies that are going to enable a future wave of business services. So certainly the big guys are very focused right now on this transition to cloud enabling the network. But we actually can't get there until we upgrade and transform our OSS and BSS systems. So we have introduced a product that we call Service Agility that is basically a catalog-based approach to service provisioning. We can take certain elements that are required to build up a product and put those elements in a catalog that are predefined and pre-tested. And we mash up a product service by drawing on resources out of a catalog. Then we can define and test new elements and put them in the catalog based on a design once, reuse many times. And using this catalog-based approach to provisioning, we can now dramatically accelerate the service provisioning time. So this is a very powerful new tool that we're introducing to enable much more rapid service provisioning and to upgrade our OSS and BSS support systems to also enable us to move into the future, which is a network function virtualization and software-defined networking future. And I would think it's fair to say that all operators globally are very focused on those new technologies that are pervading the industry and their networks, but they are also extremely focused on network performance. Network performance matters. Network performance, in fact, based on our information, our data, is the #1 criteria that drives customer loyalty. and loyal customers have a substantially higher net promoter score than non-loyal customers. But the concept of performance is changing. It's now more about throughput and latency. And we need tools to help us and platforms to help us manage this. More and more operators are now looking at data analytics platforms to help analyze the data coming off the network, both the radio access network and the core, analyze that data to provide useful insights. We're just launching a product that we call the Customer Experience Management product, Customer Experience Assurance, that is a data analytics platform. It allows us to analyze data coming off the network, provide useful insights that go down to the base station level, the sector level, the handset level, the application level, and the individual level to help us determine the network performance that we're delivering to an individual and the network performance that we're delivering to each application. So let's sum up. The world is mobile, and that's a great thing for us because it's a target-rich environment. New business models are being created: connected home, connected car, mobile enterprise. Mobility and cloud are the key enablers and will transform the networks. And finally, network performance and superior network performance matters and is a key differentiator for all operators. Thank you.
I gotta come visit you and get some more information. Thanks. That was great, Glenn. Thank you. Okay. See, where are we? Thought I had my pen here. Here you go. I appreciate it. Technology's pace. Wow, it's